Hi people, LB Custom Knives and Leather coming to you for another video. Right, today this is for another customer. This is a knife that he's just purchased. This one didn't come with the sheath. I get a lot of commissions for this type of stuff. I also get a lot of commissions for people who, you know, buy a really pretty knife that they're you know, really happy with and stoked about, and you know, to complement any knife you want, in my opinion, a beautiful sheath, really, whether it be Kydex leather, combined leather, it doesn't really matter. I think a decent knife deserves a decent sheath. There's nothing worse than having a great knife and a terrible sheath. If everybody bought great knives and sheaths together, I'll be out of a job, so it's just not a bad thing. Anyway, it's the knife. He's quite a new maker, this one who made this knife. He's just got into this type of thing, and he sold this on a site I use, and you know, I'll get a lot of commissions from that place too. And anyway, he contacted me about this. Is part of a number of God knows how many commissions I've got to get through. I'm just trying to juggle the both, like I've said, between this knives and leather, but I've got to spend a bit of time this week really, and next week, trying to catch up a bit. And I wanted to try and bring you through a bit of this process today. I started and I thought, oh, I bet, you know, maybe I could help a little bit with this. Anyway, I've drawn this out. I always start this way with any sheath that I'll do, really. Apart from, say, like the multi-carry sheath that I make an awful lot of. Obviously, I have templates for that, and but it depends on the knife as well, you know. I do carry some knives, but near enough all my customers send me theirs, and we go from there, really. That's the whole point of custom, you know. We can work through it together and get things how they're needed. Excuse me, boy Christ, it's hot again today. So I started off with the paper. Let's see if I can adjust you down just a little bit. With the paper template, I'll draw around the knife, and as you can see, with this particular knife, it's got quite a nice feature on it. Sometimes I'll do this, sometimes I won't. What he wanted from this basically was, he said, Lee, what I'd like is a tan colour. He wants this carried so that the belt loop is near enough sitting on the top of his belt. You know, so kind of a low carry, really, rather than a medium or a high carry. He also wants a retention strap across this one rather than around, so I've got to incorporate that and figure that out. I looked at a fold over pancake type sheath. I tried a few different variations, I wasn't happy, so I'm going to go with a two piece for this. I think it will suit it great. As I was saying, this piece on the front, it's a lovely shape, and I'm going to use that part of that to incorporate that into the sheath. Now, as you can see there, I'll draw around that, and when I've gone from paper, I always go to cardboard then, and then you know, I've drawn where I want this to sit inside. This is where the welts will go. Whether I'm going to put a leg retainer tab coming off the bottom as well, because it's quite a big knife, it's not a small knife by any stretch of the imagination. I don't know yet. I'm going to incorporate the things in that he's asked me to, and I might add these extra little bits after. I tend to do that a lot if I think it's needed. As I've said before, you know, you want these things to be aesthetically pleasing, but more importantly is the retention and for the sheath to work properly. You know, you don't want it just looking pretty and then they're fighting with it, or, you know, it's flapping all over the place, it's coming apart, or you definitely don't want that. I mean, I don't care how pretty it looks. Function is more important than the way the sheath looks, in my opinion. If you can do the both, fantastic. But always try and, you know, you're talking a sharp implement at the end of the day. You don't want it falling out and cutting your leg, or, you know, you don't want to be losing it and you've paid an awful lot of money for it. You know, you could be stuck somewhere on a mountain, it drops out, and, you know, that's all you needed to get out of that situation. Now you've lost your knife and you're in a whole world of trouble. You know, these things are very, very important to me. You know, not everybody just, you know, sits and looks at these things. You know, people get out there and use them, like myself. I think as a sheath maker, it's a funny one, this. You get quite a few that make them, and they don't really go out there. You know, I attend a meet every month. I'm out there in the woods all the time. I use these things all the time. You know, I see how they work, where their flaws are and stuff before I'll, you know, how they ride on my belt, or different carry options that I take. You know, I get out there and I use all these things over and over and over, just to make sure that when I send these things out, they're right for the customers too. I think that's very important. You know, if you're making sheaths, you need to be out there and see where the flaws are with them before you sell them to people. If they're for yourself, it doesn't really matter. If it fails on you, it's your own fault. But if you're parting with them and you're selling with them to other people, really and truly, you know, you need to know these things about your products. You need to be out there and you need to use them. Anyway, right, now to achieve this, the way I've got this just right, to follow the contours of this handle, it's not always an easy thing to do. What I'll use for this type of stuff, you can try and draw around it and get it right. I use, it's like a bendy ruler basically, and what I'll do is I'll take the knife, I'll use the bendy ruler, I'll make it follow the contours, I'll put a couple of little marks either side with a pencil, and then transfer that to the paper, and you should have then, you know, a mirror image of that. Just wipe the marks off, ready for next time, and away you go. There's a couple of ways of doing that type of thing, but you know, if you're going to do this, you want to get this, you know, as perfect as you can get it, really. Otherwise it's not worth doing, if you know what I mean. You want this to sit real nice and follow this perfectly. If you've got big gaps here, or, you know, you're better just to go straight across, or, you know, contour it a little bit different, or, you know, if you can't get this bit right, I wouldn't do it, because you'll do everything else and it'll look great, and then this will look terrible, and just that little bit there not looking right can, you know, just ruin the look of that sheath completely. Anyway, so we've got the front piece done. What we need to do now is we need to think about the back. Now, there's two ways of going around this. I can either fold the belt loop back on itself, and we'll have the belt loop outside, sewn to the back of the sheath. What I like to use a lot, and the reason why I do this is because I can adjust the welts inside to get a great retention, you know, not too loose, not too tight, just right. I'll bring it back round in on itself, and then what we'll do is we'll feather that out into the welt system inside, and integrate it into there, and then you'll have a nice clean black back of the sheath. And, you know, you won't have a piece sticking out to catch on stuff and stuff. It's not a major thing, or, you know, it's okay that way too. But you'll have a nice clean looking back, and it'll all be feathered inside. And that's the way I think I'm going to go around this. I'm pretty much sure that's what I'm going to do, rather than sew it to the back. Sometimes I'll sew them to the back. It just depends on the knife. Right, so what we'll do now is we'll take this, we'll draw around this. I'm just going to take my rings off a bit so hot in it, things are swelling. And if I go out of shot a bit, lads, I do apologise, but you know, I have to, as much as I want to do these, I have to get these things right too. I mean, the minute I'm messing with pat, it's not so bad, but certain things, you know, if I go out of shot and stuff, it's just because you know, I've had to turn a certain way to cut, or, you know. Right, so what we'll do is we'll draw around this. And then once we've figured this out with the paper, we'll go to the cardboard, and then from the cardboard we'll then go to the leather. Which I've got to put a big order in for soon. When I get down to a couple of voids, I like to order another 5 or 10 in. As for where I get my hides and my leather from, it's a bit of a funny one. I'm lucky in that I have a place that sells to a lot of the other leather retailers in bigger quantities, and they allowed me to go and handpick mine. So you know, if you do ask or stuff about, you know, how can I get where you get your, I just can't tell you that. I can't do that, lads. You know, it's just something, it'd ruin it for me. They do it to me as a favour. You know, it's not open to the public. I'm just lucky in that, you know, I'm able to just go and get these things. And anyway, okay, so, you know, if anybody does ask, please don't be offended if I can't help you out with the leather. There's many sorts I can help you out with to get leather. I just can't help you with where I purchase mine from. Right, so what we've done is we've drawn the front. What we need to do now is follow this up to make this loop. What we'll do is we'll draw off this right to the top. Let's get my bigger ruler. So struggling. Then we'll come off this side, because this is important to get right as well. If you're feathering it into the inside, it's got to be the right length, width across. It's got to be the right width across, otherwise it'll be too big and it'll stick out the sides, or too thin, even worse, which you could trim down. You'll cut this too thin, and when you fold it over, it'll come into this part here. Sorry. When you come to fold it over, it'll come into this part here, and obviously then you're going to have a bit missing inside the welt. You don't want that. Right. Let's push that over. Okay. So, maybe my OCD, it never lines up on the lines that I want it to on the graph paper, but never mind. As long as it lines up properly inside. What we'll do here is we'll just measure across there as well, just to be on the safe side. And we have 6.1 centimetres, and we'll just check this. That's 6.2, and it'll be the top if it's going to ply up. 6.2, I can live with that. We can trim that down, rather be too big than too short. And I'm thinking there might be enough there to fold that over and use this as the template to transfer to the card, I'm hoping. Right. For these long cuts, I do use it. I find these rotary cutters just fantastic for this type of stuff. For paper, and for if you're cutting suede or deer hide or anything like that, this is what you want. You try and do it with a Stanley knife or something else, you'll find you'll struggle a lot, and you'll get very frustrated. If you get yourself a good rotary cutter, it makes life a lot easier. Right, now what we'll do here is just take a little scalpel. You can use scissors. I do use scissors an awful lot. If you're looking for a decent pair of scissors, and if you're getting into this leather work, then I recommend you get them for cutting leather and other stuff. These craft tool, they're not cheap, but they're very, very good. I mean, they'll cut through that 5mm thick leather like paper. That's what you want your scissors to be like for leather. I don't use these very often for anything other than the leather. I very rarely use cord or paper with them. I just keep them for leather, and I keep them extremely sharp. But I also keep all my other little scissors really sharp, even like these little cheapos, because of the way that I sharpen them. And I'll do a little video on the way I sharpen these and sharpen all my other tools to help you out, and these are not a problem too. For this type of stuff, you know, I've had all these things a long time, but if you keep on top of them, sometimes I'll spend a day or half a day once a month, and I'll sharpen all my tools and get them all ready again. Right, I'll just double check this a second. Yeah, it's just a little bit too big, but that's okay. It's always better to be a little bit too big than too small. You definitely don't want it too small. Right, what we'll do now is I'll just put these rulers back and stuff. Get some of this stuff out of the way, because I can't make it a mess. Right. Okay. Excuse me. Let's put that back up out of the way. Okay. I also keep, you know, it's a good practice to keep a little leather mat or something, you know. Every time I put the customer's knife down, it goes on this mat. It's just out of shot, you know, or, you know, a bit of suede or something. You want it, you know, you don't just be throwing the knife around and stuff. You know, it will incur scratches. Right, so what we're going to do here now is we'll fold this over, if it's long enough, which I'm thinking it might not be. We're going to need a longer piece, but I can extend that out on the cardboard. Okay, pop the knife roughly where it's going to be. Okay, now we want it just under that, so if we put a little mark about there, that's roughly where we need to fold it. So if we fold it there, I will need to extend this just a little bit, well, a bit I think, but I'll do it with, you can't get much bigger really than those A3 pads, but you know, with the cardboard I can. See, it's only just going inside. I'll show you what I mean. It's a little bit thick as well, but I can trim all this down in a minute, just to show you what I mean. You see, you need a bit more than that, more to about, you want that belt loop continuing to about there. That's where the top of the knife will sit. I've got to check. Oh yeah, it's right-handed. That's another thing. So if we put this there in a minute, you'll see what I mean. And we want that to be just that little bit longer. Now, if I remember right, I think I used all of this, or did I not? No, it's still only giving me a little bit extra. I'm going to have to use a little bit more with the cardboard. So I'll need that extending by I hope this is okay and it's in focus. We'll need it extending by another 35mm, so this will need to be 35mm longer. Right, now oh, it's better. God, meat hot. Right, so what I'm going to do, I'll cut you off there. I'm going to try and figure the rest of this bit out with this cardboard. We'll get them two sorted out, and then we can transfer it to the leather. I'll be back just now.